financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Wiley, they come down the crease, tried to find him, and he got picked off. Baylor with the turnover, J.T. Woods, and he was J.T. money on that pick.
This segment with former Baylor defensive coordinator Phill Bennett is sponsored by the Nitchie Group Insurance Company, where clients are more than just a policy number. See why thousands of Texans trust the Nitchie Group with their home, auto, benefits, and commercial insurance coverage. Call their Waco office to speak with an expert at 254-420-3900 or visit them online at tngins.com. Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go, this 5 o'clock hour. Paul will focus in on the Liberty football program, which has done such a great job and had a heck of a team every year so far this year. That comes at the bottom of the hour. We're now joined by former Baylor defensive coordinator Phill Bennett on SicEm365 Radio. So, we could go a lot of different directions. Let me ask you this. It's not as if you guys didn't have, at times, wherever you've been, players who became disgruntled, perhaps threatened to leave, or maybe just wanted to send a message or whatever. It looks as if Dave Aranda and his staff have calmed down what's going on with Treston Ebner and John Lovett. Your thoughts about that story as a distraction, or can it be something that gives them a spark?
Well, obviously, I'm a coach, and I think Dave and his staff can work through it. Nowadays, and you and I have talked about it, and y'all are part of it. It used to be just talk radio. Now it's the social media, it's Twitter, it's Facebook. All these people are giving these kids information. You didn't carry the ball enough. You didn't do this. You did, and it's always going to be the coach's fault. But I think when they sit down and look and talk to these coaches with their reason, I think it explains a lot of things, and I think they can learn from it. And I think always, everything you do is about a learning experience. Both of them are competitors. I know. I watch them compete, and I'm sure they're good kids, and I do. I think they could manage this.
Is this one of those things, though, that you do have to deal with also inside of a locker room, especially a locker room full of young people, is that if two guys are mad at the same time about the same thing and are just talking to each other, sometimes you can get trumped up to a pretty different decision than what you would do if you just would have talked to your coaches in the first place? Oh, absolutely. I mean, any time the more verbiage that comes out of anger, the more it's regretted. And you paint yourself in a corner, and sometimes it's hard to get out. Now, it's always good, I say this again, to have competitive guys. But being competitive and being selfish is two different things. And you've got to look at the big picture. Still a lot of football to play. And I'm surely not getting on here and just giving coaches a pass. But listen, these guys, all of them, the coaches, players, everybody has been dealt a rough hand. I was concerned, I told you last week, with the layoff, the different time. They were anxious to get back on the field after the West Virginia game, didn't get to play. And then all of a sudden, Texas loses to Oklahoma. And we knew that they were in for a fight. And with just a little bit of luck, just a little bit, not giving up two big plays on defense in the secondary, they're going to win the game. They're in the game. So they're not that far away.
Phill, I agree with you. There's a couple of things. They could very well be 3-0, but they are 1-2. What were some things that stood out to you? Obviously, a really good defensive performance outside of the couple of miscues, and the offense just not able to do enough ultimately. Well,
first of all, I'm going to say this again. Defensively, you can't, and I'm sure Roberts would say this, you can't give up a uncovered 72-yard play. You can't give up back-to-back 47, 48-yard uncovered plays. And those led, if you look, guys, those led to 14 points. And it became a difference in the game. With that said, we were on the field too long. Texas, they rushed the ball, I think, 47 times. We rushed it 23. The clock was to their advantage, and we couldn't get going, couldn't make the plays that we needed to make early in the game offensively, and it became frustrating. But as the game progressed, I felt like Charlie, what we were doing, we started hitting the groove.
Phill, I got to bring up Charlie. I've said this before, and I people kind of get on me for my I guess what I think of him, which is I think that he pretty much has earned everything possible going forward. Eventually, if production's not there, then if the other two, Bohannon or Zeno, can prove during practice, if they ever get much practice, that they're better, then I'm sure the coaching staff would make that decision. But do you see Charlie Brewer has regressed in his time at Baylor? Do you feel like as a defensive coach that you know what he can and cannot do?
I will say this, he is the starting quarterback because Larry and Dave feel like he gives them the best chance to win. And I know both of them, and they know exactly what they're looking for. Now, with that said, his production, he lost a NFL receiver. He lost a running back that I think Hastings is somewhere on a roster doing something that could run and catch. So I think he's lost some of his guys, Tecklenburg, the up front people. And I think that with all the issues of COVID and guys not playing, I know two of their guys were not in the lineup on Saturday. I just don't think he has got back to a form that we've all expected him to have. That's what I see.
Phill, I'll ask you this question just for the edification of our listeners. Craig and I brought this point up earlier, and this is, you can speak to your experience. Have you ever been part of a staff, and I know what the answer to the question is, outside of a disciplinary reason, that did not play the best player available to play at any position?
I can't, over 40 years, I mean, unless it was a situation that he was injured or disciplinary, no, I don't.
Yeah. So when people conspire that there's only one currency that coaches have. It's wins and losses. So whoever's going to get you to the better part of that currency is who you're going to always go with, right?
I mean, yeah, 99.99.
Yeah. I know it sounds dumb that I have to ask that question, but we have to address it quite a bit.
Yeah, we actually do. Hey, Coach, how good is this Oklahoma State defense? Pretty impressive win by them over Iowa State this weekend.
I think they're good. I don't think they're dominant. They give up also. They give up a lot of plays. You saw they give up explosion plays that got Iowa State back in the game, and Iowa State dropped some balls that could have won the game for them. I still believe this is a very doable game with Baylor. I think that when they end up playing whenever it is, but I thought that they were good, not great.
Your thoughts about, we've asked you, and you discussed what you knew about Terrell Bernard. He was named Defensive Player of the Week. He had 19 tackles. He was all over the place against Texas. And he only has started now for what, a year?
A little over a year, yeah.
When Johnson got hurt.
Yeah, when Clay got hurt against Oklahoma about a year ago. He's been the Big 12 Player of the Week 3 times in less than, I guess, a full season.
Listen. He's everything we saw. I'll never forget Carlton Buckles and I went down there his junior year, and we immediately I told you, I went to school with his coach, and he said, Phill, I've never had one like this. And there's been some players through LaPorte. And he is a guy that exemplifies plays every play. He was by far, both teams, in every game he's played, he's been the best football player on the field, regardless of position. He is a stone cold stud.
Yeah, he really is. I was on a podcast last week in Austin, and I told him I think he's the best linebacker. And I didn't just say the Big 12. I think he might be the best linebacker in the country. Of course, it's very early for that, and some guys aren't going to play.
You know what? One thing, Smoak, you can't make up. His cover speed is like there was an add in, and Sam's not a burner, but he's not slow either. I mean, there was a play that Sam was sort of scrambling. We had a 3-man rush on. We had pretty good coverage. Sam looked like he was going to come to the line of scrimmage, and I'm telling you, he hit Sam. Do you remember when he whipped his neck? I mean, he is a cobra. When he hits you, you're going to feel it.
Except a cobra can kill you. That's maybe Sam thought that might be the case. Are you getting the?
Yeah. Hey, if I hadn't made myself clear, if I hadn't made myself clear, I love this kid.
Yeah. No, you do. Yeah.
I remember when I talked to him, he was a serious dude. He had a plan. He, obviously when all our stuff went south, he ended up. He said, "I'm going to go to Houston." And I'll never forget, I told his high school coach, I said, and I don't mean to slap to Houston, I said, he needs to be at a Power 5 school. He needs Baylor. I told all of them. Joey, I said, this is one, you better get back on. Because the middle of the year, he dropped us because of the uncertainty.
Yeah.
And he is, I think, without question, he will be a first-team All-American player.
There were some blown coverages. That's going to happen. That's human. It can happen for maybe even a guy who runs the wrong route or the quarterback throws something he shouldn't throw. How much does missing Christian Morgan in the secondary, is that what probably mostly happened on Saturday against Texas?
I don't know. I know Christian is a great player, and I know they missed him. The other games, I haven't seen that. Against West Virginia, they did such a good job of carrying the verticals. But these routes, I mean, I think it was 72, 48, 45. Those turned the field on you. And I thought, I will say this: Texas is not a great team. Yeah. I mean, and I think the receivers, little 7 can run a little bit. Everybody else is tall and slow. And I really liked the matchup that we had. And I did not know Morgan wasn't going to play. But, I mean, Raleigh did a good job. I thought what happened, I can't tell you. But there must have been, it was definitely a coverage bust because it wasn't ability-wise. When we were in our gap, I mean, we held them, I think we were held to 3 yards of snap rush, and they were only 3-4. But we were doing things good. And we just needed till our offense got their bearings. We couldn't afford to give those plays up.
I'm with you, Coach, on Texas. I mean, there's some pretty good players, but that's not some world beater of a team by any means. I was curious, how much do you know about Luke Fickell at Cincinnati? How much have you maybe been able to see of those guys? A pretty impressive performance against SMU this past weekend.
Well, I know Luke all the way back when he was a player. And, I knew him when he used to recruit. When I was at Pittsburgh, he'd recruit Pittsburgh. He's a great young coach. He's got some very veteran guys on that staff. A name, David, you might remember is John Tenuta.
Mm-hmm.
John was a DC at Notre Dame, Virginia, Ohio State. And John helped the young coordinator there, Steve Strickland, who's been at Michigan. And Luke has really done a good job. I think that they have recruited well, that they've evaluated very well, and they pretty much dominated SMU. Once the game, their quarterback was active. They run the ball. They're very sound on defense, and they're a pretty good football team. Yes, they are.
Coach, do you think that in the Indiana-Penn State game that was a 2-point conversion?
No.
I'm with you, Coach. I'm with you.
No, I mean, I'm going to tell you something. The human nature of the eye in the sky, the people make decisions, they don't want to make those refs look bad, in my deal. And I think without question, the ball was on the ground before it crossed, and it was not a 2-point play. And unfortunately, with the game, we saw that play, which let's be honest, Franklin could have ended the game if he doesn't score. He'd give them like 8 seconds with the ball. And then how often does this happen? Then the same thing basically happened between Atlanta and Detroit when Gurley scores too fast and Matthew takes them right down the field and beats them. So,
yeah,
it's that's why they call it a game of inches. It's easy to be critical when you're not in the heat of the moment. Now, the one thing I want to discuss, I haven't talked to Dave. Why did we punt on the 30-yard line?
Well, no, it's he said today.
I know there's got to be a.
Yeah. Do you want to listen to his answer? Do we have that, CJ? Do you have time, Phill? It's like about a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We'll put you on. And here is Dave Aranda when he was asked that question. I'm glad you brought it up because we were going to bring it up in the next segment. Here's Dave Aranda.
I have talked to the staff a lot about just when getting to know our team, getting to know our players, and we've spent so much time getting to know our people. I think we're probably more familiar with our people than we are our players, and so we're kind of learning our players as we go here. There's been times to where you've got this group of 11 guys, and you're kind of playing, you're kind of getting to know them, and then you break, and then you come back with a different group of 11 guys, or maybe this position or that position. And so I think coaching-wise, what happens there is that sometimes you try to set the table and try to control the environment, maybe by this call, it's a double check, or it's a check with me, or it's a motion to try to get an ID, or it's hey, we're going to bluff this, but we're going to check it and run this. And so I think there's been some of that, and some of that is just trying to get, that's kind of in the response of really not knowing our team, or getting to know our team rather, and just giving them the fundamentals and let them go and play. And so I've talked quite a bit about that with our team, with our staff, players and coaches. And, I think I was guilty of that with what you're talking about, with just trying to be too cute, trying to be too elaborate, and it's a mistake on my part. I think the ability to put our team out there and protect that thing and kick it through the uprights is the better choice. And so I think I think it goes. It's and I brought it up to the staff and to the team in that respect. It's an opportunity for us to learn and grow from, and continue to come together as players and coaches as a team.
All right, so that's Dave Aranda. Phill, I love the fact he admitted it. He flat out did.
Well, let me say this again, and I'm not like I said, there's some things I'm going to say after, but Dave and what his staff has gone through is really, it has been a mess. And everything he said, not knowing the kicker, are we confident enough to go for it? All those things I agree with. But when you're playing on the road, and it's just me, and one of the things I loved about us when I was at Baylor is Art used to tell our kids, and I'm not throwing this shade on Dave, but hey, we're never going to back down from a challenge. And if the ball's at the 30 in a game like that, I will guarantee you we would either gone for it or found a kicker. I just think the moment probably caught Dave, and I'm definitely not being critical I thought he got a pass because of what happened. But at some point, if you're ever going to be the team you want to be, you got to play fearless. And your players got to know there's never a doubt. My coach is going. We're going for this, or we got confidence in our kicker, and we're in season now. You got to make those plays. I think the average fan and the average coach would agree with that.
No, I think
What's your thought?
Yeah.
No, we all agree with you. It was stunning, and especially when you then just slam it right into the, you punt it right to the end zone.
Well, then you give up a big play right after
and then
that
right
for
after
like
that,
80 yards.
I was going to ask you this. First of all, it was a shocking decision. It was stunning. I asked him about it. We all asked him about it. But as a head coach, do you learn on the fly like that? Is that something now he can put in his back pocket, even though it was a tough decision, a wrong decision, and a costly decision? Do you put that in your back pocket? Do you immediately reflect back on that at some time down the road?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Listen, game management from being a defensive coordinator to managing the whole game is a whole new realm. And I don't care who you are, how smart you are. You got James Franklin yesterday, who is doing a great job at Penn State. They weren't able to do it. I mean, he will learn from this. Dave is a smart guy. And let me say this too. Once he gets a better confidence, which hopefully is soon, and those kids, that he knows who the playmakers are and where he wants the ball to go. Larry also, then it will help us. Now, you'd be surprised too, and I don't know what was said, but sometimes coaches say things on the phone, and I remember one time when I was at Arizona State, one of the coaches mentioned something with Todd Graham in a crucial game. We're playing at Stanford, and it was a terrible situation. He wanted to go. We were backed up, and he wanted to go a spread punt. We were playing good. We had the lead, and we hadn't practiced it, and we did it. Got a punt ball for a touchdown. Cost us the game.
Yeah, Nick Saban tried to kick a field goal at the end of the game against Auburn and had nobody but 300-pound offensive linemen on the field because they were trying to protect the kick.
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
Nick Saban, even during times after he'd won multiple national titles as well. Anything else, guys? No. Phill, we love the segment. The audience loves the segment. Great to hear from you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
One thing I'm going to finish with, let's make sure that we, support these guys. These guys with a little bit of, right now, not having success, this is when you become fans for your team and coaches.
Thank you, Phill. Appreciate it. Phill Bennett, former Baylor defensive coordinator, coached everywhere, and included Arizona State, the thing there.
I think one thing that people have maybe lost track of or not considered enough, this is just my opinion because this is what I was thinking yesterday when I was seeing all of the talk about, and really I was thinking this Saturday with the talk about the punt decision and all of that. He's a first-year head coach. Yeah. Like, anybody who's expecting flawless decision-making now throughout the rest of this season or even in the next few years. I mean, you bring up the Nick Saban decision against Auburn 3-4 years ago. Coaches are still going to make mistakes from time to time, no matter their experience level, but they're certainly going to make more maybe scratch-your-head type of decisions early on when they're still trying to figure things out a little bit. And so I think that's one that he's probably, maybe even, I don't know if he's embarrassed by, but, probably regretting quite a bit. And look, next time they're in that situation, they'll kick the football and make a different one.
All right, great point. COVID testing, total active cases.